That's the thing we like to do every time there's trouble.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the TCT podcast here on YouTube. My name is Gavin Campbell, and alongside me, as always, my two good friends, Tyson Snyder and Cale Fleming. On today's rundown, we have a reoccurring guest on the show, Chris Hopkins, joining us to talk about Monday night and Thursday night football last week. Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, guys. Glad to be back.
All right, awesome. We're happy to have you back. After that, we're going to go ahead and move on to Illinois starting their Big Ten play against probably the strongest, if not one of the strongest opponents in the Big Ten, Penn State. And then after that, we'll move on to Jimmy Butler requesting a trade from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then finishing up with Central Illinois High School football. For now, we're going to go ahead and get into the Monday night football matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the Chicago Bears. The Bears won this one. The score made it seem closer than it was at 24-17, but the Bears defense was pretty stout. Mitchell Trubisky, in my opinion, looked very well. 25-34, almost 74% completion rate. Had 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had really one interception, one really immaculate interception on the sideline. Chris, I know you watched that game. Give me your thoughts just overall on the Bears and how they bounced back from that Week 1 loss to Green Bay.
Like you said, Trubisky he looked confident in this matchup. Even with the interception, he looked really good. Your defense, I don't even have words for the performance that they put on against Russell Wilson and Seahawks. It was a pretty fun game to watch, actually.
I can tell you how it works. Seattle's offensive line is horrible.
Well, you're not wrong.
Horrible.
It's 6 sacks on Russell Wilson, and we know how elusive he can be sometimes in the pocket, especially outside the tackles. It's really hard to bring him down. So I think that just speaks volume. I mean, we had five different players last night on the Chicago defense with a sack. Really, that's what it comes down to, is getting pressure on the quarterback. And like Cale alluded to, the Seahawks offensive line, easily one of the top 5 worst O-lines in football right now. I mean, they're up there with the New York Jets, and we saw that against Cleveland. They're falling apart in the second half, but we'll get to that in a moment. Russell Wilson, he really struggled. 22 of 36, 61% completion rating, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick late in the game.
Prince
Amukamara getting his first ever pick 6 in that one. It seems to me, and people obviously coming into the season said that the Seahawks wouldn't be as good as they have been in the past few years. Obviously, the Legion of Boom is disintegrated over the past few seasons. Richard Sherman's gone now. Earl Thomas coming back from his holdout, his injury in the offseason. And
he's going to be in Dallas after Week 4.
Absolutely. Seemingly so, as what it's going to turn out to be. But I think we need to touch on one thing on the offensive side for Chicago, and that's Jordan Howard. And I know Tyson, it's a little touchy for him because Howard's on his fantasy team, but
first running back I drafted. I had high hopes.
14 carries on Monday night for 35 yards. I think first of all, he's got to get more touches, and second of all, this is not Jordan Howard from a couple years ago. This is not a guy that ran for 1,400 yards in his sophomore season, and I've been almost disappointed the first 2 games in the way that they've utilized him and the way Coach Nagy has really put the team on Trubisky's back. I can understand wanting to get the quarterback going, but I think when you have a veteran running back like this that is young and talented, you need to get him more touches.
Well, and I don't think Jordan Howard's entirely the problem. Like you said, he needs more touches. I think Jordan Howard is similar to Zeke, not in play style or physicality or anything, but this is a guy who needs 20-plus touches a game to get his yardage. You're not going to get it to him on 10, 14 plays and get him a good average per carry or decent yardage for the game. You got to give it to him 20 times to wear a defense down so he can break that run for 30 yards and get his average up, get his yards up, all that stuff. So, once again, I know I've talked about it the last couple episodes with Zeke. He needs the ball more, and I think it's the same for Jordan Howard. You just got to give it to him more times.
Absolutely, Chris. I got a question for you. I know you follow the Falcons, obviously. You're a big fan. Your running back duo of Freeman and Coleman and your rookie that you guys brought in, excuse me, I forgot his name.
Ito Smith.
Yes. With those guys, do you see a similar situation in Chicago with Howard and Cohen? Kind of just, not a 3 or 4 down back, but guys that can come in and out and complement each other's play styles?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen are one of the top 5 running back duos, in my opinion, in the league right now. I think you were right that Howard does need more touches, but, I mean, if you look at the receiving, he's actually the third third on the team for receiving yardage, which it's only 2 games in the season for them. But he had 8 receptions for 58 yards. They're utilizing him more as a passing back, it seems like, this year than what they were doing with him last year. Last year Tariq Cohen was the one that was coming in, taking all the passing plays out of the backfield. But they're trying to get them all going. Like, they've been doing some jet sweeps with Turbo Taylor. They've been
The guy you're very familiar with down there in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, they've been doing some good things. I've actually been watching them pretty closely this season so far.
Now, sticking with the receivers, let me ask you one more question here. Allen Robinson coming over from Jacksonville in his first 2 games. He was kind of quiet against Green Bay, but kind of had a showing out against Seattle on Monday night earlier this week. Can you give me your opinion on Robinson and if you think that he is one of the top 10 number 1 receivers in this league right now?
Little early to tell on that. He's got 14 receptions for 144 yards, so he's not doing bad. They're getting him the touches, or the receptions. Also, you gotta look at the defense he went against in Seattle. Also, like you touched on it earlier, that the Legion of Boom is not the Legion of Boom anymore.
Right,
it's the Legion of Sorrows.
They only have 3 of the original Legion of Boom members left on their team from that Super Bowl run, if you believe that or not.
And
Right.
one of them's out.
Yeah, with injury right now.
But they did replace part of that secondary with Shaquille Griffin.
Shaquille and Shaquille.
Well, they got both of them, but
Shaquille's
Shaquille's the one that plays.
Corner, yeah.
Plays corner. And he actually had a really good game against the Bears. He had something like 8 tackles, 3 pass breakups, and an interception or something like that.
2, both interceptions.
2 picks, that's right. So, yeah, he had a
On
really
the
good
season,
game.
he's got 10 solo tackles, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, as a corner, that's incredible.
That's great.
Yeah. Let's stay with a couple more questions here on Monday night before we move on to last night's game between the Jets and the Browns. What does this mean for Seattle? We know we talked about their defense and the injuries that they're dealing with right now. But Chris, what is going on with the Seahawks, and how can they bounce back from this 0-2 start, being in a tough division, the NFC West?
Honestly, I don't really see him having much of a bounce back, and I hate to say that because I like the Seahawks. They're a decent team. We have a little bit of a rivalry between Seahawks Falcons with random no calls and calls that shouldn't have been made in games the past couple of years. But Russell Wilson has been the most sacked quarterback since he's came in the league, believe it or not, and it's his offensive line 100%. You guys are right on the money with that, but it's also the fact that they don't really have a running back. I mean, he led the team in rushing yards last year as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a decent running game at all outside of Wilson scrambling and trying to make something happen.
I believe their running back right now is Penny, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So yeah, you're absolutely. They have no identity running the football at all. And when you have Russell Wilson back there with no offensive line, they've put all their money into the Legion of Boom, or whoever's left of it. Like you said, only 3 guys remaining from that Super Bowl, the 2 Super Bowl runs that they had.
All their money's in Russell Wilson. That's why they don't have an offensive line.
And that too.
Every bit of their money right now is in Russell Wilson.
Well, and they're still paying Richard Sherman because they had to buy out his contract.
Yeah, that was
which was a whole different story in
itself. If you look
itself.
at it this way too, Russell Wilson's top target right now is that rookie tight end. What's Disley? Is that his name?
Will Disley?
Yeah,
Disley.
that's his top target.
I mean, he's still got Lockett. He's
and
decent.
Baldwin was out
and
for that
Doug
game.
Baldwin
out.
was out, but when he comes back, he's always a threat.
Their receiving core, I mean, it's good, it's decent enough. Like you said, they got Tyler Lockett, got Brandon Marshall, Doug Baldwin. They have a decent enough wide receiver core. It's just the fact that he has no time back there whatsoever, and their defense is just lacking right now to the point to where they're letting teams walk all over them.
Now, I know in the Bears game, we saw that the Bears defense absolutely just swallowed him. He didn't have time to run away. He didn't have time to do anything. But can you blame all of these sacks on his offensive line? Because we know he likes to move out of the pocket. We know.
No.
So he does. Personally, for me, I think he's not trusting his offensive line enough, and I think that's where at least 25% of those sacks come from, is him ditching the pocket and getting hit outside of it.
Yeah, and I was going to touch on that too, because he is a scrambling quarterback. He does have the decision to either stay in the pocket and trust his guys, or if he even feels like the smallest hint of pressure, it seems like he has to move out of that pocket because he's not comfortable in it. So I do believe that you're onto something there with him getting outside of the tackle box and a defender closing in on him quicker than he probably anticipated.
All right, last question here so we can move on to Thursday night. I guess what it comes down to is, do you think the Chicago Bears, is their defense enough to get them to the playoffs?
That's a hard division. That's a hard. I think they could, if they keep it up the way that they're going right now. If they get a little bit more going offensively with Trubisky and, like you said, Jordan Howard down the line, I 100% believe that they can make the playoffs, probably as a wild card team.
All right, fair enough.
I would like to answer that question.
Go ahead.
No, I think the Bears defense is outstanding. They're phenomenal. They've got all the right pieces to do it. But the question is, will the Bears defense be enough alone to help them make it to the playoffs? No, we saw that in Game 1. The defense was outstanding. Shut out the Packers for 2 quarters. Absolutely dominated that game, and it still wasn't enough to win a game. I think that's enough proof there that the defense alone is not enough to make it to the playoffs. The offense has to come alive too.
Well, yes, but I don't think the offense has to play outstanding for them to make it.
No, but they have to play good.
Yes. Let me just say, those conditions, going up against, personally, I think the best quarterback in football, also at Lambeau Field, first game of the season. You got a rookie head coach. You got a sophomore quarterback that didn't even play a full season last year. You had Khalil Mack playing limited snaps. You had Roquan Smith playing limited snaps. I think there were a lot of factors that went into that game.
And Rodgers was also out for a quarter where they had more than enough time to take advantage too.
And that's fair. And I think if you took all conditions and set those aside and played a perfect game, which we know that no NFL game is perfect,
yep.
I think that the Bears probably walk away with a win in that situation. But that could be my bias talking. But I know that we all watched that game, and I know me and Cale especially were very excited, very happy with what we saw in the performance.
That was a roller coaster of emotions.
Yep.
It was. It was.
Now, and I don't want to take away from the Bears. I think they've got everything it takes to make the playoffs this year. But the defense alone carrying them to the playoffs, I don't think that's possible. I think it's an outstanding defense. I think they've got opportunities to be top 2, top 3 defense of the year this year. No problem. But if their offense doesn't kick it into gear like they did against the Seahawks, if they can't show up every week, they're not going to win enough games riding that defense's back.
We don't have Khalil Mack, then this defense is a completely different situation.
It's still good, but it's not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, let's move on here. We talked about, Cale, you brought it up, a roller coaster of emotions, and that's exactly what Thursday Night Football was.
Let's go!
Last night, Tyson, your boy, coming in late in the second quarter, Baker Mayfield took over for Tyrod Taylor, who went out with a concussion with about 2 minutes left.
Thank God.
Well, let's get to the stats real quick. Baker Mayfield came in, threw 23 passes, completed 17 of those, 74% completion rating for 201 yards. Also caught a 2-point conversion pass from Jarvis Landry. And then his counterpart, Sam Darnold, 15 of 31, 48.4% completion rating with 169 yards and 2 interceptions on the night. Chris, let me get your overall reaction to this. I know that I talked with you a couple days ago about Baker Mayfield and the Browns and how they essentially were a kicker away from being undefeated this season. Now that we've seen him in action, what are your thoughts on Cleveland? And also congrats to them getting their first win in over 600
Browns
days.
win!
So
First win since December 24th of 2016. 691 days or something like that.
That's almost 2 complete years. That's bad.
Browns. I've been wanting to root for them for so long, but they've just been terrible. And last night was probably the first Browns game in at least the past 3 years that was actually fun to watch. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like whenever Tyrod was doing whatever he was doing the first almost 2 quarters, it looked like it was going to be a blowout. 100%. They were up 14-0. Tyrod goes out to the concussion. All you hear throughout the entire stadium, like you can hear it on the TV, is Baker Mayfield over and over and over again. And I was at the point to where I was rooting for it because Tyrod was not performing well, and then Baker comes in, and it's just electric, dude. Like the minute he came in, there was just a surge, a certain feeling on the offensive side of the ball with the Browns that we hadn't seen in 3 years, and. They performed really well. Baker Mayfield, he didn't get a touchdown, but he, like you said, he got that 2-point version, the Baker special is what they're all calling it.
Yes, sir.
It was fun to watch. It really was, and I'm excited to watch this team going forward.
Right. Real quick, we said, or you touched on it, that Baker Mayfield failed to actually score a touchdown himself, but both touchdown drives ended in a Carlos Hyde 1 or 3 yard touchdown rush, which Baker Mayfield set up with Jarvis Landry and David Njoku and all those guys.
Throwing dimes to Landry.
Absolutely.
Threading the needle, dropping it right where he needed to be. Oh, my God.
He had a catch on the 1 or 2 yard line last night that there's nowhere else that ball could have been placed for Landry to get a chance at it.
Jarvis Landry is good. Baker Mayfield's going to make him look even better.
Yeah. Landry had 8 receptions for over 100 yards last night. I think he averaged almost 13 yards per reception, and that's no thanks to Taylor. Mayfield came in, and you could tell that was going to be his target all night long, and he was. Let's also props to Carlos Hyde, 23 carries, 98 yards.
I also have Carlos Hyde and Jarvis Landry on my team. Just thought that should be put out there. Carlos Hyde was the second running back I drafted, and that's come out a lot better for me. I think that's a similar situation. Carlos Hyde got 23 attempts last night, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think Jordan Howard, going back to that, he needs a very similar line, 20-plus carries, and I think he gets exactly what Carlos Hyde gets.
Right. I know this is a little off topic, but we've seen it with Zeke. If you get 20 carries, the Cowboys have only lost 1 game.
Yep.
And that speaks volume. And we can see it here with Cleveland last night. Now, this is what I love is the defense gave up 2 touchdowns in the first half.
And then shut it down.
And when Baker Mayfield came in, they said, we're going to play for this guy. I love it when the backup comes in. Arguable, and I know that you'll argue it could have been a starter, but the backup comes in.
Should have been a
Right.
starter.
Yes.
Week 1.
Right. But he comes in, and the defense has already given up 2 touchdowns. They only let up a field goal the whole second half.
Yep.
They rallied around his energy. Just about every single time down the field he scored. I think they failed to score on 2 drives only. So that just shows you that he has it. Whatever that it factor is, whatever you want to call it, Baker's the guy. And this is what really jarred me, Chris, and I want to get your opinion on this, is the post-game press conference with Hugh Jackson, the Browns head coach, says that he was still on the fence and still pondering who would start next week. Now,
Are you serious?
Absolutely. And I don't see how you can come out and tell the press after that kind of performance, after that kind of comeback win from a rookie, the number 1 pick, who sat the first 2 weeks of the season, took no reps with the number 1 guys in practice all week, comes in and puts on a performance like that and gives your franchise the first win in almost 2 years. So, Chris, I just want to get your thoughts on that and how outrageous is this from Coach Jackson?
It's sort of like the same thing that's going on in Tampa Bay right now. You know, Jameis Winston out for 3 weeks. Ryan Fitzmagic's coming out there, and he's putting on a show. And you just can't take that kind of guy out. You know, Baker Mayfield. I mean, look at Tyrod's numbers for the whole year. He's 41 for 84 for 462 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
He was
with a
4-14
67.7 or 63.7 QBR. And Baker comes in there and almost has half the yardage in 2.5 quarters.
Not even 2.5, yeah.
Not even 2.5 quarters with a 100.1 QBR. And granted, it was against the Jets, which we'll touch on the Jets here in a second, I believe. But I really like their defense. But he balled out. He did what he was supposed to do as a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no way you take a guy like that out. 100%. No way in my wildest dreams would I ever take Baker Mayfield out if I was Hugh Jackson.
Yeah, there's almost 33 million reasons why you don't take Baker Mayfield out.
Yeah.
33 million reasons why. You just signed him to a 4-year rookie contract for $32.6
One of the largest rookie contracts ever signed.
since 1999.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you don't take him out. And he comes in, what's he do? He wins you the goddamn game. That's why you don't take him out.
You don't take him out because if Coach Hugh Jackson wants to keep his job, he'll keep him in. If he wants to keep winning games, he'll keep him in.
Amen to that.
Jim Dorsey, the GM's going to override that. There ain't no way. Especially after that performance last night, there ain't no way that Baker's not starting the rest of the season.
What is the one difference I've said between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold since the draft, Cale?
I forgot.
Baker Mayfield is a winner.
Yes.
Ooh.
Not that I'm saying Sam Darnold's not a winner.
No, you're not wrong.
I've said that for a long time. Sam Darnold is not. I said after week 1 I wasn't sold on his performance. Weeks 2 and 3 I think we're starting to see he's regressed a little bit since that week 1 performance. But Baker Mayfield is a winner. If you want to win, Baker's in.
Yes, and let me say this. I have never disagreed with you and said that Sam Darnold was a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. And you will vouch for me on that. All I've tried to say is
he's a good quarterback.
Yes, I've tried to defend Sam Darnold in saying that he is an NFL caliber quarterback. I'm not saying that he's in the top 5, top 10. He's not in the top 20 right now, but he can be an average to above average quarterback in the NFL for the New York Jets. There's no reason he can't be. But we did see it last night, and those tendencies at USC came out, especially during that last drive and the second interception. There's no reason you throw that ball into double coverage on a curl route. Absolutely. Both defenders had already cut the route. He was going down to the ground, and he let it fly. For whatever reason, it was 1st and 10. There's no reason to throw that ball. So the things that we saw against Detroit, that speaks volume for itself. They have the 3rd worst defense efficiently in the entire NFL after the first 2 weeks.
And that's the thing. Everybody hyped up Darnold because the Lions are so bad.
Yes.
That's the thing. You just hit it right there.
But with that said, we saw good things that he did. But in this game, the Browns' defense is no joke. I still think that they're a top 10 defense, easy.
No.
So, I talked to Chris about this last night after the game, is Denzel Ward.
Mm-hmm.
That guy from Ohio State. Well, we are
well picked up at number 4.
And
a lot of people question
the question marks surrounding that pick. I think he has shut everyone up in the last 14 days.
I don't even know if anyone's caught a pass against him.
He has 17 tackles, 11 of them solo, has a forced fumble, 2 interceptions. And not only that, but the Browns defense as a whole has a +9. It's a +9 turnover ratio because of the defense.
In 3 games.
100%. And, you got Myles Garrett and Larry Ogunjobi.
Yep.
They're combined for 7 sacks and 2 forced fumbles on the season. They're getting it right now. And it's an enjoyable defense to watch.
Right.
Myles Garrett is a force to be reckoned with because I was listening to something on the NFL Network the other night saying that Myles Garrett has so many different pass rushing moves that the offensive line cannot contain it because he can just switch it up on demand. He doesn't have 1 or 2 special ones that he uses. He's got 10 to 12 that he can pull out of his arsenal at any point in time. You can't stop that. Especially with a dude with his size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm going to piggyback off everything you guys said. This Browns team is to be reckoned with because let's not forget that they went toe-to-toe with the New Orleans Saints. A lot of people picked them to come out of the NFC this year.
Pittsburgh.
They went toe-to-toe with the Pittsburgh Steelers, made it to the divisional round, and got upset by the Jaguars
Another
last
favorite
year.
again for an AFC champion.
Absolutely. And
that
now,
team's going to implode. Sorry.
No, that's we'll talk about that a different day. But then they have their home game against the Jets. It's Thursday Night Football. It's a short week. Their starter goes out. The rookie comes in, has an immaculate comeback. I mean, this is a team, although their record says they're 1-1-1, it feels like this team is so much better, especially with the way their defense has been playing,
And the thing is with their record is in Pittsburgh, I mean, it was raining. It was terrible. It was an ugly game. But their kicker, they missed a field goal that potentially would have won the game.
Oh, Gonzalez? Yeah.
Zane Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Against the Saints, if he would have got that extra point, there would have been no overtime. It would have been 20-19. They would have won that game. And they're just 2 kicks away from being 3-0.
Right.
That speaks numbers.
Well, they got that rookie kicker now, that Corey Joseph or whatever his name is. He's coming out there. He's short stroking 50-yarders. That tells you anything. Short stroking.
Yeah, although he did have a scare in that game where he almost missed that extra point.
Shot,
that was
yeah.
But
he pushed that thing as far left as he possibly could have.
Yeah, the chip shot field. I said extra point. I meant field goal. But yeah, it said extra point because it was as close as the old extra point rules. But yeah, that was definitely an incredible game. Real quick, let's go ahead and get a touch on the future for next week, Chris. Browns Raiders. Browns looking for their second, and Cale is getting a phone call right now. We're looking at the Raiders and Browns, and Raiders looking for their first win of the season. If they don't get it on Sunday, the Browns looking for their second win next week. Who are you taking in next week's matchup?
Browns, 100%.
100%. That's what I like to hear.
Browns going 14-1-1. I'm right there with you.
Oh, we got the biggest Baker Mayfield fan in Illinois, I swear.
Yep.
All right, Chris. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on today. Really appreciate the insight, and we'll definitely bring you back again. We really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, no problem. Take care. All right, that was Chris Hopkins. Man, I always love bringing him on. Always good information. Always brings up the stuff that we forget to talk about. But let's go ahead and stick with football here. Let's bring it down a notch, or bring it up a notch, depending on what's your take. The Penn State Nittany Lions taking on Illinois Fighting Illini, kicking off the Big Ten conference play, Week 4. Illinois is hosting Penn State. Penn State's ranked 10th in the nation. MJ Rivers going to get his first official start for the Illini in Week 4, second official start. Excuse me. First official Big Ten start. He is a freshman. This guy through 7 quarters has 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 273 yards, and a completion percentage of 64.4%. He's going to be going up against a Heisman Trophy candidate in Trace McSorley from Penn State. Not as good of a completion percentage at 52.3%, but he's thrown a heck of a lot more passes, and he's got 3 more touchdown passes as well. What are your guys' expectations for this game? I know that the spread was looking pretty ugly.
We have a 4.8% chance of winning tonight.
Well, and there it is. With that said,
Penn State's 27-point favorites.
Does Illinois have any chance of keeping it close tonight?
If they can shut down that run game, that they can, because McSorley doesn't want to throw. Neither does Penn State's head coach. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he doesn't want to throw. And you can see that because he's only got like 110 yards, something like that. If you got it in the notes, I'm on a different page.
604 total yards on 88 attempts.
Yeah, but you got to think, 4 of those touchdowns that he has, 4 of the 5 that he has scored this season have all been on the ground. He's only got 1 passing touchdown all year.
Right.
So that tells you right there that they're not confident in going in the air, which they don't really have to because that Miles Sanders for Penn State is tearing apart defenses. He's got, on 49 attempts, he's got 295 yards and 2 TDs. That says enough right there. If we can't stop their run game, they can still throw because they've got 3 or 4 targets that he can go to if need be. But they just got to stop the run game is what it comes down to being.
Right.
Which our defense, our front 4 aren't bad.
No, not bad at all.
But if he gets out of them front 4, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly for sure.
I'm gonna say we lose this game.
Well, I hate to say it, but I think that was a given.
On it.
Yeah.
Can we hang with them?
That's the big question.
Can we hang?
Appalachian State took Penn State all 4 quarters and then some Week 1. Almost pulled off that huge spoiler on them.
Is Illinois as good as Appalachian State?
I think Illinois could beat Appalachian State. Appalachian State always shows up.
There's a chance.
Appalachian State always shows up against big competition. Doesn't matter who it is. We saw that when they beat Michigan 10 years ago or whatever. Coda, I hope you're not listening to this. But Illinois, I think they can play the role of spoiler. We saw what they did to a potential top 25 team last week against South Florida.
Well, they had them beat.
Kept up, had them beat, choked away at the end. I don't see why there's any reason they can't keep up and at least keep it somewhat close. I don't think we're going to win. I don't think we're going to get blown out by like 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. So
here's the thing: is we played Kent State, but so did Penn State.
Yep.
Penn State beat them 63-10.
Yep. Penn State's defense is stout. They absolutely shut down that run game. And
I'm glad that you bring up the defense of Penn State because this is the big question mark that I have going into this game is what does Lovie Smith do? Does he put the ball in the hands of MJ Rivers and tell him to throw it down the field? Or does he put it in the hands of his running backs and Epstein and Corbin and say, go pound this down their throats?
I think you keep the game plan the exact same as it's been the last couple of weeks. A nice 50-50 split, but I think instead of throwing 2 5-yard passes, I think you throw 20-yard passes. I think Penn State's defense, to me, they're weak in the secondary. So I think you need to try and abuse that and at least try to capitalize on a couple long touchdowns or at least long passes to set up some different scores. But I think you got to keep handing the ball to Epstein. You got to keep handing the ball to Corbin. I love watching Reggie Corbin run. Hand it to him and let him make some magic happen. But I think you keep the game plan the exact same. Nice 50-50 split, maybe 60-40 for the run. But keep it close to even, and you got to beat them up front. Hopefully the running backs can do some work, and then you got to abuse them over the top.
I'm going to compare Mike Epstein and Ricky Corbin to Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard. Epstein's got to touch the ball more because last week against USF, he only had like 8 or 9 touches.
For 70-something yards.
Yeah. But he's got – imagine that. He touches the ball more. What happens? He goes for 200, 250, 150?
Epstein had 19 carries for 113 yards.
Okay, 19 carries. So there he's at.
I think I'm remembering the half stats. Yeah. That's my bad.
But think about it. 19 carries. He's got to touch the ball more. But Rivers can throw. So I agree
That's
with you
the
on
big
that.
question.
I agree with you on that. You don't want to stop him throwing because he can do it. But at the same time,
He's got more touchdown passes than Sorley does.
yeah, because like I alluded to earlier, Penn State doesn't want to throw. And
Right.
They don't have to. I don't know.
What I would like to see is less option and more spread, because
Yes,
you can
more
still
spread off, yeah.
you can still run the ball out of the spread, but with a defense at the caliber of Penn State, that option's not going to work. And we know Lovey likes to run it, because I know when I went to the Kent State game, I saw it a dozen times, and I'm not a big fan. I understand that it's college, and it works exceptionally at the high school level, but I would like to see him put the ball in the hands of MJ Rivers and just see what he can do. I mean, this is going to be the hardest, if not the second hardest game we play all season. So why not just let it fly?
Well, I wouldn't say that because we've got Ohio State next week, I think, after this game.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I said arguable. We still don't know how good Penn
Ohio
State
State,
is.
Penn State,
Some
yeah.
people think they got lowballed in the power rankings. Ohio State is real, but Penn State, I think, is just as good.
One thing I will point out, going back to they need to throw it down the field more, MJ Rivers is only averaging just over 6 yards per attempt. So he's only throwing the ball 2, 3, 4 yards on every play, and then the receiver's going down after 5 or 6 yards. So I think they just got to stretch the field a little bit more. But the one thing on defense, we really need to shut down that Penn State run. I think it's going to come down to stretching the field on offense and just shutting down the run on defense, which we know we've seen some problems with mobile quarterbacks shutting them down. But running backs, we haven't really had too much of a problem with yet.
No,
but
Bobby
we'll
Brown,
see what
yeah.
we'll see what it's like going against a top tier caliber running back from Penn State. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. And we'll be talking about it on Monday. I want to get your guys' final predictions for tonight's game.
Do we lose by 27? No, I'm going to say we cover again, but we lose, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we cover, though. Are you going to go that far?
I'll take Penn State 35-17.
Wow, that's actually a pretty close. It's generous. It's generous, I think.
Under 3 touchdowns.
Fair enough.
I don't want to predict a score.
That's what I'm going with.
I'm just going to say Illinois covers.
I was
I'm gonna say
thinking
that.
I was thinking more along the lines of MJ Rivers shows up, but our defense still gets exposed. I was thinking more along the lines of maybe like 48-31, something like
Okay.
that.
I could see
You know.
that.
I don't know if we can put 31 points up on that defense, though.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's why I want us to take the chances, because if we do and it pays off, you look smart. If Illinois puts up 31 points on Penn State, you look pretty good.
Yeah, touche.
And that's just what I want to go with. If we can only lose by 17, even if my score isn't correct, I'll take that in a heartbeat. But let's go ahead. Let's just move on here. I'm hoping for a good game. Let me shift gears to the NBA, which we haven't touched on in, geez, it feels like forever. The past couple months in the NBA, offseason's been pretty boring. Same thing with the NHL.
We got some spicy news.
Spicy. Jimmy Butler met with Timberwolves management, Timberwolves management.
Oh, that's definitely
There you
Timberwolves.
go.
He met with them on Wednesday, and he requested a trade, ladies and gentlemen. His preferred destination would be the Los Angeles Clippers, New York Knicks, and Brooklyn Nets. He says that his beef with Andrew Wiggins and his attitude towards the game, as well with Cat's selfish play on the court and lackadaisical defense, really what put him over the edge. And I don't think that comes as to any surprise. Jimmy's a guy that was brought up by his bootstraps. He was homeless at one point, had to live on the streets. He brought himself up playing at Marquette. Played on the Bulls bench for a long time, and then became a starter. He's earned everything that's been coming to him. He's been multiple-time All-Star, been an all-defensive caliber player. I think that he could change the path of a team wherever he decides to go, wherever the Wolves decide to deal him. But this, I don't know if it came as a surprise to a lot of people, but I think some people might have been blindsided by this just because Jimmy doesn't seem like that kind of guy. But Tyson, let me start with you. What are your thoughts on Jimmy Butler requesting a trade?
Well, we talked about this a couple months ago now, that if Cat and Wiggins don't shape up and start playing how Jimmy wants them to play, because Jimmy is the leader on that team. He's the only repeat all-star defensive player, and he came out and said it several months ago. You guys need to start playing defense. This is bullcrap. I don't see this as any surprise wanting to get traded. I do see it as a surprise that it's before the season even started. I think we had all said we thought he would stay for the end of the year and then leave when he can re-sign a max contract. But the fact that this has to do with Wiggins and Cat being millennials, it doesn't surprise me at all.
You're not wrong.
Like Jimmy Butler, this is a guy that works hard every day, busts his butt on each side of the court every day, up and down every play. So the fact that these two young guns are going to push this guy out because they don't want to play defense, one, that's bullcrap on them. I think as management, you got to see that and say, hey, these guys are toxic. This is crap. But the one good thing I'll say that comes of this, we know who Jimmy Butler is. We know what he can do. He can absolutely transfer. Imagine what they can get for him in a trade. Just imagine. They can get all kinds of stuff. Any hole they've got, they can basically fill except the hole that Jimmy Butler's going to leave. So
That's a big hole, too.
Yep. The only player in the league... Oh, I squeaked a little bit.
That's okay.
This is the only player I believe can consistently guard LeBron night in and night out. The only player that I think can guard him.
He's the only one athletic enough.
Well, let's not forget about Kawhi Leonard. But
yes, okay, Kawhi Leonard.
Okay.
So you got two guys in the league that can guard him effectively.
Yep.
I
Kawhi
agree.
and Jimmy Butler.
Well, and Kevin Durant. But those are probably the only three that I can think of.
Kevin Durant's soft.
Yeah, Kevin Durant's soft.
Well, he is soft, but I mean, he did
mean,
sweep the Cavs in
True.
the finals.
True.
Did hit the game-winning shot over LeBron in Game 4 and 3.
That's offense, though. That's not defense.
You know, he
Offensively, Kevin Durant's amazing.
did. I'm just putting it out there. I think he'd go toe-to-toe with LeBron. I do think LeBron's better. But let's continue with Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
Here we go.
Let's just let me not go go out on a tangent here. I think Jimmy would fit great on any team that wants him. I'm surprised the Lakers weren't on his list.
He doesn't want to play with LeBron.
Right,
Those already came out and said
Right,
that.
that's what was surprising to me. He didn't want to be second fiddle to anyone.
Can
He
you blame him?
didn't want to become
He'll
a
never
spot-up
be
shooter. No.
Hang on.
Go ahead.
Before you say that, that's why I feel like he's not going to go to the Knicks. Is because if Kyrie goes to the Knicks, he's going to be second fiddle to Kyrie.
What about Porzingis?
Or Porzingis.
Right.
There ain't no way he goes to the Knicks.
But I think that LeBron's personality and Kyrie's personality is extremely different.
Yep.
Because we saw
Same with Kristaps.
Yeah.
we saw Kyrie I understand it's preseason and it was only 6 minutes of the first game, but we saw him play with Gordon Hayward. Didn't seem to be a problem. Hey, we saw him play with Al Horford. Didn't seem to be a problem. When Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown started showing out, it didn't seem to be a problem. You know, until he had his surgery and had to sit out the rest of the playoffs and the season. For me, I would love to see Jimmy and Kyrie in New York personally if they can make it work. I think if Jimmy really wants to do his thing, I don't see why he wouldn't go to the Clippers, because the Clippers are also looking at Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard's contract with the Raptors is up after this season.
two best defensive players in the league
On one team, along with Patrick Beverley at point guard, who is the best defensive point guard in the league.
1, 2, 3 right there.
Exactly.
Patrick Beverly, Jimmy, and Kawhi.
It's something to think about.
Good luck.
You know, but this is the other thing is it all depends on what the Clippers are willing to give up, what the Knicks are willing to give up. I think Brooklyn's got assets now that they finally have their first round pick back. They have Karis LeVert, they have Rondae Hollis Jefferson, Jarrett Allen, I think is his name.
Jarrett Allen.
So all these guys on that roster that are definitely flexible. You know. I think the one guy you want to keep is D'Angelo Russell. I think that you could probably trade Spencer Dinwiddie after the season he had.
Russell's is the Nets. That's their franchise guy.
Yeah, going forward.
Jimmy goes.
Exactly, and I think that could be a good 1-2 combo as well. This definitely shakes up everything because the Wolves came out yesterday and said they're not interested in trading Jimmy, despite his trade request with management on Wednesday. So we'll have to see what happens moving forward. It's definitely going to be interesting, and when it does,
That locker room's going to be toxic.
It has been for a while.
They're gonna have a hard time winning games if they can't get these three guys, their main three guys, to cooperate.
well, we already saw how difficult it was for them winning games when Jimmy was injured. He was out 3 weeks. They almost missed the playoffs, and they were all the way up in the 3 seed in the Western Conference. That's how impactful he is.
Yeah, Jimmy averages 21 points a game and like 4 or 5 blocks and a steal. Well, maybe not blocks. He averaged 2 or 3 steals and at least a block.
Yep.
Yeah, he's made all defensive team multiple times. He's that
And
good.
it's not the steals and blocks. It's that you can't shoot over him. You can't dribble around him. You can't, because he'll make you make mistakes. He'll make you make turnovers. He'll make you do whatever. He'll make you pass the ball to someone else who's going to miss a shot.
Right.
He just absolutely shuts it down. So it's not about the stats he's getting. It's about the things you don't see.
The Pacers need to make an offer.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler. Who's the Joker they drafted? What's his name? Pacers.
Aaron Holiday?
Aaron Holiday, thank you. Miles Turner.
Gonna be a sleeper pick. He's going to be rookie of the year. You just wait. but that's a story for a different
No, I
day.
can trade Boy on, give him to Minnesota, and Jimmy can replace him.
We'll have to see. But let's go ahead and finish up with our last topic here, Tyson. I'm going to hand it over to you. We need to talk about Week 5, I believe we're on, of
Yes,
Central
sir.
Illinois high school football. Take it away.
It is Week 5. We are going to line up our picks for the day. Our first game of the week is going to be Champaign Central against Peoria Richwoods. Central is 2-2 on the season, 2 big wins coming against crosstown rivals. And Richwoods 1-3, whose one win on the season is against Manual, and they won 21-19. For me, this was an easy pick. I'm going Central.
I'm also going Central. There's nothing else to add. You hit the nail on the head.
Central.
Yeah, the fact that the lone win. Oh,
I
you
got
write
it.
them down? Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got
The
it.
fact that their lone win came against Manual and it wasn't a very good win, that's enough for me. Our next game up, PBL against Moments. This is not the Moments team we've seen of the past. They are 1-3 on the season. PBL 3-1. I think that's enough said. I think Moments' one win came against Dwight, who's always not a very good team. Or no, their one win was against Iroquois West, who they beat 27-7. PBL beat Iroquois West 38
to nothing.
Yeah, 38-0.
And PBL's
And-
one loss is against state champions.
Correct.
GCMS, yeah.
Yeah, one loss against GCMS, and they have destroyed Georgetown
Everyone.
Ridge Farm, Seneca,
Yeah.
Iroquois West since then. So easy pick again for me. I'm going PBL.
Yeah, go Panthers.
All three of us
Go
taking
Panthers.
PBL.
All right, our third game of the week is going to be Danville against Thornwood. Now, Thornwood is not a team I know a whole lot about. They are 1-3 on the season. Danville, we know, is 2-2. They beat Urbana and Centennial, the other two Champaign teams again. Thornwood's one win was against Oaklawn, which I believe is up in Chicago.
It is.
And they beat them 52-12, I believe. It was a really good win. But their other losses were not good losses. But they were against very good teams up in that Chicago area as well. But I'm going with Danville on this one. I believe that the Vikings will travel well and take this one, but I don't know a whole lot about Thornwood. So
I don't either. I know Danville, and I know they've been up and down all season. I'm just going to have to put the unknown aside. I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one.
Yep.
Danville.
Just Danville. Next.
All right, in our next game, again, another easy pick for me. It's Urbana against Bloomington. Bloomington's one loss, they're 3-1 on the season, was against Normal West, and they lost 17-14. A good game against a good
Don't
team.
do it, Cale.
I am going with Bloomington in this one. I
Don't
feel
do it,
like
Cale.
you should just write that down for everybody. Please don't. hurt
Cale,
yourself
don't do
anymore.
this. Please.
I've picked Urbana the last 4 weeks, but I'll have to change it.
Thank
You
God.
traitor.
He
I'm
finally
gonna
did
have to
it.
change it.
He finally did it.
I've only have a 3-game lead on you. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only
Yeah.
got a 3-game lead. I'm trying to win, so I'm taking Bloomington.
Go Purple Raiders. That's all I got to say.
All right, I'm going to skip Game 5 that we've gotten written down
Yeah,
here.
go
I
ahead
want
and
to
talk
come
about
back
it.
to it. So
Yep.
our next game up is going to be St. Thomas More against Rantoul. STM is 2-2 on the year. Rantoul's 1-3. I'm going with St. Thomas More just off of the fact that they took it to a pretty decent IVC team last week and won 42-1. I think they'll ride that high, that 1-point win, into another win this week, especially against Rantoul.
Right. I want to be different this week, and I don't know why. Something's telling me the Rantoul's itching to get a second win in overtime again. So fly, Eagles, fly. Let's go Rantoul.
I'm going to have to take STM too, just for the fact that I picked them as a sleeper a couple weeks ago. Was it week 2 or week 3? And they actually
You
balled out.
Last
picked them
week.
last week because
Yeah,
we both went
last
with
week
was.
IVC.
That's
Week 4, yeah.
Last week, go STM.
Go Sabres.
Yep.
So we finally have one out of the 5 games we've got so far.
I had to be
We're
different.
We're different.
I had to
It
be
was
different.
Gavin.
Man. It's always me.
Okay. Our next game is going to be Watseka against Dwight, Gardner South Wilmington. Dwight is 1-3 on the year. Their one win coming against Westville. They actually destroyed Westville in that game. Against Watseka, who's a 3-1 team, their one loss coming to Salt Fork, which was 14-12.
12,
or
very
something
close
like that. Very
game,
close
yeah.
game. I'm going with Watseka in this one. I touched on it earlier.
Finally
Dwight,
coming over to my side.
Dwight usually does not have a very good team, but yes, I'm coming with you here. Yeah.
Every time Watseka's up on this board, you know who I'm taking. Go Warriors. Watseka looking to move into 4-1. I love it.
I'm taking Watseka too, just because Gardner, South Wilmington's 1-3. I don't know much about Gardner at all, so go
All
Warriors.
right. So we are another consensus pick there. Game 7 that we're going to talk about here is Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond against Sangamon Valley Tri-City. Both teams 1-3 on the season. Neither one with very good wins or very good losses. This one was kind of it's hard to pick because they're both not very good.
It's a barn burner.
Right.
Yeah.
Allah's one win came against Martinsville. They won 33-0. Sangamon Valley's one win came against, if I can find it here real quick, their one win came against Bunker Hill, Mount Olive. They won 40-7. I would like to point out their one win, Mount Olive scored 7 points. Those are the only points that team has scored all year in 4 games. I think that's what set it over the edge for me, that team scored on them. So I went with ALAH, Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond in this one.
Yeah, me too. You shouldn't let a team that can't score. I think that even if it's a freak play, I think if your offense is if their offense is that bad, your defense shouldn't have to give that up. So I'm sorry, Tri-City, but yeah, go Knights.
Yep.
Yeah. In Tri-City, in games that they've lost, they put up 13 total points. They got shut out twice. Those 13 all came in one game. In Allah's losses, they have scored 20 combined points. So they've at least scored in every game. That also kind of tipped it for me. But our next game is going to be Peoria and Normal West. Like I said, Normal West beat a very good Bloomington team, 17-14 last week.
And those two teams are usually very competitive as well.
I think what sets it over for me, Peoria is 2-1-1 on the season. They tied with Manual last week. I still don't really know what happened, but if they tied with Manual, I cannot pick them.
No one knows what happened. I know that I had sent the score to you guys because I follow the Big 12 conference. I saw Manual had tied, and I said, oh, wow, they must have had a pretty good game. The score reported on Max Preps as of today, so this would have been a week ago from September 21st, so on the 14th.
Yep.
0-0 was the final score of that game, and I find that very hard to believe.
That makes me think that game got canceled.
That's what I think too. But if it got canceled, they would just cancel the game. They wouldn't score it out.
They wouldn't award you
with
a tie. Yeah.
Right.
So it's very confusing. But if that is the case, even if they played a quarter and then they called it,
because that was my initial thought too, that it got canceled.
Right. But if they played at all and Peoria failed to score on Manual, that is a huge red flag for me.
They're not going to put up any kind of points on Normal West.
I got to take the Wildcats in this.
Go Normal
West. There we go. All right, and our other game is going to be Heritage Villa Grove against Cumberland. Villa Grove 2-2 on the season. Cumberland 3-1 have absolutely destroyed some opponents.
Yeah, some
Cumberland
quality
puts
opponents.
together fantastic football teams.
Yes,
for no bigger than they are, fantastic.
Oh yeah. Now Cumberland was a team that PBL used to play a couple years ago that we would go down there and absolutely stomp them. That was usually about our one win of the year was against Toledo Cumberland. But this year they have a phenomenal team. They're, like I said, they're burying people. I think they're averaging like 40 points a game or something like that. Yeah, they've got wins against Sangamon Valley Tri-City, which we touched on earlier, 47-0.
Right.
They beat a good Oakwood team, 49-46. They lost to Arcola. We saw that, 54-35, and they beat Kansas Shiloh Oakland 42-7. So they are averaging over 40 points a game. I think Cumberland takes this one pretty easy.
I think I have to be different once again. I'm going to go ahead and take Heritage Villa Grove over Cumberland. I don't know much about them. I know that they do have, I think, are they 3-1 or 4-1 this year? 4-1 this year. So, yeah, they've beaten some guys, but Oakwood, I mean, they went up against Watsika. Oakwood only put up 14 points. Mm-hmm. And if their defense let up that many points to Oakwood, Watsika's defense isn't that outstanding to me. I think it's very good. I don't think that it's that good. Heritage Villa Grove can put up points in bunches if they get their offense going. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Blue Devils.
Okay.
We've differed on 2 games.
And me and you have been the same for all
every
of them.
one. I mean, it's just one of them weeks where it's like, honestly, if you think about it and you look at it, I'm trying to win. So.
Oh, I understand. I got to be different. I'm down by 5 games.
We've got
man.
1 game left. St. Joe and Pontiac.
Yeah.
I skipped this one. We're coming back to it.
They're both 4-0.
Both 4-0 teams. I think this game is going to be great.
Hot.
Both teams have put up really good wins. Both teams have beaten BCC and Tolono, who generally have pretty good teams that are a little lackluster this year. Pontiac also beat IVC 40-7. They beat Prairie Central, who's now 3-1 on the season.
Their only loss,
36-30.
Yep.
Pontiac is looking stout. St. Joe, like I said, though, 4-0 as well. They beat BCC.
They beat STM and Rantoul,
which
a couple questionable wins.
Right.
You know, they're supposed to win those games.
But they have looked good in all their games. And this one is very hard for me to pick. I'm going to let you guys pick first, and I'll give you my thoughts here afterwards.
I'm going St. Joe.
I'm going Pontiac.
I'm going St. Joe because they're local. We know what St. Joe can do. Pontiac, obviously, great team. I just feel like St. Joe's better.
Trust me, I know what St. Joe can do after playing them 4 years in high school. They state contenders every year. They come out and lay down the whooping. I am going with Pontiac in this one. After the good win they put on Prairie Central last week, 36-30, Prairie Central has a very good team this year.
PC was a team that after week 1 we were like, holy hell, these
crap.
guys are
Real.
for real, you know. And you know, coming into week 4, St. Joe put them in their place.
Yep.
So I don't see why their other 3 wins haven't convinced me that they are the realest deal out there
This
yet.
one will.
It will.
This one will for sure.
This will
and
decide
I won't
it.
pick against St. Joe ever again if this happens.
No, this will decide
but
it for
that's
sure.
our one game we're going to differ on this week, Cale, so we'll see who goes what.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
No, for sure. And I know that this week doesn't seem like the greatest crop of games, but you know, like Cale said, sometimes the matchups that's just the way they happen. Everyone's got to play everyone in their conference. So, and the way that they have it set up too, you know, it's not always conference games mid to later in the season. They mix it up here and there. I know when I was there, we would play 2 or 3 out of conference games, and the rest you'd play your division or your conference. You know.
Yeah, I know we didn't have Centennial on this week's lineup. I don't know who they're playing, but I'm not confident they're going to win.
No.
Unless it's Manual, and then I'll give them a shot. We also didn't include Muhammad again this week or
They're
Tuscola.
playing. Muhammad's playing Mattoon. Yeah.
Mattoon, or is it Mattoon or Monticello?
It's Mattoon.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I'll give Muhammad a pretty good shot against Mattoon.
Oh yeah,
this
the
week.
Green Wave I think is 1-3 on the season
Yep.
right now.
Yep.
So, and yeah, ever since they got moved out of the Big 12, they've been kind of going downhill. I'm not sure what it is, but they used to have a really good program.
Yep. And after a tough loss last week, I'm expecting Tuscola to bounce back, so I don't think it's a big deal. They're not on the lineup this week, but
No,
I think we can all agree they're going to win too.
Absolutely.
If anyone's keeping up with that.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to go ahead and do it for us today. If you liked what you heard, make sure that you leave a comment or rating in the box below. Make sure you hit that big red subscribe button and click the bell icon next to it so you never miss a beat. Also, make sure to follow us on our social media at sports_twin. With that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. We will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Based upon the view, you can't have too much trouble. So why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it. Let's strike the fireworks, stand back and enjoy it. Oh, oh. Bomb to